Let's start with what made the rounds yesterday, and it's Jeremy Pruitt hired as a PE teacher in high school. And it's after he gets the 1-year permanent ban, the 6-year show cause. It is today's lead story, and it's brought to you by Zen Sports. And Zen Sports is changing the game. Excuse me, Zen Sports, the new sportsbook in Tennessee, revolutionizing the way you earn sports betting rewards. That means no more deposit bonuses that turn into deposit nightmares on Zen Sports. What you see is what you get with their cash rewards program. You get a lot of cash. A welcome bonus. You can get an unlimited 5% cash back on your betting volume for the first 15 days. Or when you sign up with the promo code HOOKED, unlimited 5% cash back. Keep betting, keep earning with up to 3% cash back on your betting volume every month after that. And refer friends to earn a percentage of their betting volume as cash rewards too. Zen Sports bringing the cash back to Tennessee. So if you bet big on sports, you want to be betting on Zen Sports. Zen Sports betting just got better. Finish this sentence. Jeremy Pruitt becoming a PE coach, high school teacher, which I'm sure he's going to coach on the football team. Jeremy Pruitt being a PE teacher is blank.
Admirable. I'll say admirable.
Okay, why admirable?
Because I know he was fired for calls, so he doesn't get to take his buyout, but he collected his millions when he was coaching at Tennessee. He's got 10 years worth of money that he collected as an assistant coach before that probably paid pretty well at Alabama and Florida State. This isn't the 1990s. This is the era where assistants were making, even as late as early as 2009, position coach at Alabama is making what, Dave, like $300,000 minimum?
Yes, and you bring up a good point because back in the 90s, these guys were making 60 and 60, 70 assistant coaches, and if Johnny Majors had up and gotten fired and lost a lot of those guys, they would have been moving towns, not with a huge bank account. So yes, if these guys have invested correctly, they should be okay. So we don't feel sorry for him financially.
Right, exactly. It's not like he needs this. I think he's doing it because I will say this much with Jeremy Pruitt. Cheats in recruiting, may not be the brightest guy ever, but I think there is, his dad's a coach. I think he genuinely likes developing football players. I think that's just something he likes to do. And I mean, he could easily be somebody that still, sold his house in Knoxville, invest his money and just sit on his cash and just, go on TV or go on podcasts or say something. But he's like, no, I think all he knows how to do is coach and develop players. And I give him credit for it. I mean, it's one of those where he doesn't have to do this. And he knows he's going to get a lot of jokes for doing it, but he's still willing to do it.
We're assuming he has invested correctly. So let's
that's actually a question too. That's a good point.
Okay, so we're it's when you got it, sometimes it's easier to spend it. So I don't know that. Let's assume he's investing correctly. What is your word on the message board? My word is apropos. It's just appropriate. It is what it is because of how bad he cheated. This is not a situation in which anybody's possibly going to hire him. I think 6 years, and that takes him into almost his mid-50s, is a long, long time. If I had to pick a second word, it would be a little pitiful. I feel a little bit bad for the man at this point in his career, even though we can argue very strongly, and I could, that he deserves it, that he could have gotten Tennessee in a lot worse situation than he already did, and it was pretty bad, and he was bad at cheating. So I could go appropriate, but I can also empathize, Caleb. It's a little bit sad. I think it also tells you his strengths, which are very clear, and they're very clear on this Tennessee football team. You look at the Jeremy Pruitt guys that have contributed last year and this year, he was a pretty good evaluator of talent. He didn't miss out on a lot of guys. I'm not saying he's a good coach overall. I'm not saying Tennessee would be better off with him. But, Caleb, when you look at some of the guys that he recruited, Cooper Mays would be one. They've got that dog in them for the most part. Jeremy Banks, maybe too much, but they do have that dog in them. They've got that fight. And I think one day, 6 years from now, what would that be? 2027, 28?
29, actually, sorry, 29.
29, yes, as Caleb and I are mastering math today. I got it 7. I think he'll be a great recruiter again because I think he has a keen eye for talent. I've said this before, Caleb. You and I can determine 1 stars and 5 stars if we go out to a skills position camp tomorrow. It's the 3 to the 4s that are more difficult, and I think Jeremy Pruitt's very good at that. It's weird to see him have a skill that he's not going to be able to use with that show cause. So I can feel a little bit sorry for him if I'm sounding big-hearted. I apologize.
Question: would you take him in the NFL as a scout?
Well, the NFL didn't. So I would say this. I don't think he's as good of a pass rushing technician as maybe he's been called in the past. And the NFL didn't take him. I think evaluating college to pro is way different than high school to college, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's they're leaps and bounds. And I mean, but I would say, would you say it's a little easier to evaluate college to pro just because high school is, I mean, you don't even, do you even take stats into account when you're evaluating high school talent, or do you just throw stats completely out the window?
Stats mostly out the window unless they happen to be in like one of those Atlanta area, very strong high school regions. Maybe you factor that in a little bit, but how's Jeremy Pruitt going to coach a defensive end that's making $10 million, $12 million, $14 million a year, and they know his background? He's not a very good communicator with his peers age-wise. He's a good communicator, I think, when he's talking down to you and telling you what to do. And that's not a knock. A lot of high school teachers are. I mean, a lot of high school PE teachers you talk to, and they're talking at you as opposed to with you. Does that make sense? I think he's a talk at you guy to high school kids, and he wasn't really comfortable talking to people his own age.
Yeah, that was actually one of the problems with him when he was even coaching college, was I felt that everybody wanted the fiery coach. I think Tennessee fans have been desperate for a fiery coach ever since Philip Fulmer, who was the least fiery coach of all time. And so they kept looking for it, and Pruitt was one of those. But Dave, isn't there a line between a fiery coach and maybe losing your temper where you shouldn't? And I mean, I remember that.
I don't even know that he was fiery. I think he was just emotional, like any coach would be. And I don't think he handled those situations particularly well. Taking over the offense with 2 games remaining in the season, that's not a good idea for a defensive coach.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing that really stood out was one of the things that I remember was that I don't know if were you covering Alabama in 2019? I know you were in 2017.
Yeah, 2019, yes.
That was the year where Alabama hosted Tennessee, and Jared Garantano did that quarterback sneak that he fumbled the ball and was returned the other way for a touchdown. And he wasn't supposed to do a sneak. He was supposed to hand it off. And yes, Jeremy Pruitt had every right to be upset with Garantano, but he lashed out at him on the cameras, and he grabbed his face mask at one point when he was walking to the bench. And I'm like, yep. You don't do that. You know what I mean? I don't know how you feel. You don't grab a player's face mask when you're angry at them like that. You talk to them, you yell at them, you bench them. But I don't know how you feel about that. I think you don't make physical contact with players.
I agree with that. Now, there's some old school guys a little bit older than me that would argue to the hilt against you in that. And they would say, no, there's nothing wrong with that. I agree with that. And I think you can say you're playing like a jackwagon, not you are a jackwagon. Do you see the difference in how I phrase that? You're practicing like a jackwagon, not you are a jackwagon. I think that's respect on the football field. It's no physical contact, which I think was part of the problem when things started to unravel for Butch Jones in practice. And I think that you just don't call somebody names. You can say you're practicing like a lazy bleepity bleep. Just don't say you are a lazy bleepity bleep.